Welcome, it's denome. In this video, we're going to take a look at the future of politics. And the reason we are talking about politics in this channel is not about left or right. We're simply interested in the politics so we can understand what the future will be so that we can actually make financial decisions based on the future that will hopefully save some money for us, as well as hopefully make some gains, understanding where the world is actually going. So I'm not going to talk about the small term price movements of Bitcoin right now for this video too much, but I want to just highlight that this drop here was caused basically by political pressure as well. So if we go to my Telegram here, there were a few articles after I posted the last video about inflation, why I think Bitcoin might be a good investment to hedge against inflation. But then on 10th of September, two people behind Fed's money printer actually said that they have sold their stocks for ethical reasons at all-time highs basically, and conveniently now say that they actually support tapering of the money printing, basically slowing down the money printing. And then right after, we saw news from China that a major $300 billion company was about to default on their loan stash, and that basically caused a little bit of panic as well. So that's basically the whole ride all the way down here. But today, China actually announced that they will inject $19 billion back into the banking system. So that caused Bitcoin price to spike about 6% here, back above this support line here. So we'll see if price goes down or not. I'm currently about 50-50 in stable coins. I'm still waiting a little bit. I might buy some assets today because the prices have gone down quite a bit, so there might still be some discounts today, so I might buy a little bit back today. So I don't know exactly yet, but anyway, that's basically the short-term price. But what we are really interested in is the future. So in my opinion, the future will be the Great Reset. And there's basically nothing we can do about this, but in this video I want to highlight what this actually is and what it actually means for us as individuals and as investors as well. So the Great Reset, this has been talked about for a long time. You probably know most things about this, but it's basically about implementing this global stakeholder economy or global stakeholder capitalism as well. So what the hell is global stakeholder capitalism and so forth? I'll try to make my point here, and I try to avoid the conspiracy area of this topic, but there's of course some areas that you just don't believe can be true about this idea that they have, the World Economic Forum, about this. So I try to make my case, provide the information, and you can decide if this is bullshit. You have to be prepared for this, or if this is not bullshit. And of course, there will be resistance in implementing this anyway, so we'll see if it actually plays out. But I just want to talk about this because I think this is a highly likely future that we will see. So you probably heard this statement here. So welcome to 2030. This is an article from 2016. You own nothing, have no privacy, and life has never been better. And this has been contributed by World Economic Forum. This is basically the plan they said on 2016 for 2030. That was the idea. So the seeds for this have been around for a long time, as well as if you actually go and see what is stakeholder capitalism. This is an article by Klaus Schwab, who is the founder and the current chairman of the World Economic Forum. So this is the leader of the whole thing here. And if we take a look at this stakeholder capitalism, what is it? It's basically supposed to replace the current system of capitalism. And this goes a long way back, more than 50 years, that he first wrote about it in 1971. But I do believe this idea is much, much older than just 50 years, and I will talk about why. And Klaus Schwab, he was born in Germany and had a lot of influence from Germany, which probably will be very clear soon when we go further what the hell this is. So the idea is that local companies embed in their surroundings, and he's talking in past tense, but this basically summarizes what the stakeholder capitalism is. So local companies were embedded in their surroundings, and from that grew a mutual respect between companies and local institutions such as government, schools, and health organizations. So what he's talking about here is basically the union of companies with government. That's basically the idea here. And if you take a look at this, you can see a business is here, but the stakeholders, not shareholders, the stakeholders are all of these groups here. So a stakeholder is shareholder like it is now. You have lenders, you have customers, you have suppliers, employees, state and society, and the economy. And all these are part of the stakeholder economy, and they together own these businesses. And if you are thinking, wait a minute, this sounds a little bit like fascism. Well, I have to agree that this is basically the same thing as fascism, which happened in Nazi Germany as well as in Italy before World War II. It sounds very much the same thing. And if we take a look at what the Wikipedia article actually says about this, it basically says the same thing here. So World Economic Forum Chief Executive Klaus Schwab, this guy right here, described 3 core components of the Great Reset. And I just wanted to highlight from Wikipedia because this was concise information for this video. So the first thing involves creating conditions for a stakeholder economy. That's the first thing. The second component includes building a more resilient, equitable, and sustainable way based on environment, social, and governance ESG metrics, which would incorporate more green public infrastructure projects. So more government control, basically. The third component is to harness the innovations of the 4th industrial revolution. So if you are thinking, what the hell is this 4th industrial revolution? It's basically just automating, it's basically surveillance and information technology, machine-to-machine communication. So more interconnected world, basically. So digital passport is a part of this 4th industrial revolution. The COVID passes are part of this, and all these things, medical services and so on. And I will just highlight one thing from, I think it was, let me see here. So this is again an article from the World Economic Forum here. So the 1st industrial revolution, you can imagine during this COVID-19 crisis, companies, universities, and others have joined forces to develop diagnostic, blah, 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 all kinds of medical things and surveillance and all these. Imagine what all this could be possible if similar concerted efforts were made in every sector. So what you are currently seeing in health, imagine all of that happening in every sector of the world. So no more privacy, like they said as a plan here. In this article, no privacy, everything is basically state controlled, and you are supposedly part of this stakeholder, maybe. So, okay, so far it's only this one guy talking, this Klaus Schwab, who has this idea. But if we actually take a look at the partners for the World Economic Forum, so here are the partners for World Economic Forum. So as you can see, basically every major company, including Amazon, Apple is here, every company, Microsoft, all the, even Pfizer is here. If we go to P, you can see Pfizer is here. Every major global company is basically part of this World Economic Forum, as well as all the governments are part of this World Economic Forum as well. So now let's go back to this. They're basically the website for the Great Reset. So if you go down, the context they say is the COVID-19 crisis, which is just a lie. It's not true. As you saw, this idea had been around for 50 years. And even from 2016, they talked about this global stakeholder economy already being fully implemented. But anyway, the context supposedly is the COVID-19 crisis, which have all these different problems. And the opportunity is a swift, unique window of opportunity that if they quickly establish a new, basically world government to govern all the companies in the world in a healthy manner, that is basically the idea. And the nature of business models, management, and global commons basically have to change, and the priorities of societies and national economies. So all these will be basically nation-led projects. That's basically the idea for these. And all these major companies are part of this, because in fascism, it's basically government-led capitalism. So major companies are big winners, but this has to be done at the expense of the small business, because small business do not support the idea of basically government saying like, oh, no, 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 you cannot have green papers, you have to have blue papers on your tabletops or anything like that. All these micromanagement things come from the top. So this is basically the idea here. And you probably already understand that I'm not a fan of this idea, but as an investor, I have to accept basically that this is going to be the reality. And just before I show all of these things, before I show all of these things coming together in real life already, I just want to talk about this theory that Yuri Bezmenov said in this YouTube video here, the 4 stages of bringing down a country. And you may actually identify a few of these. I'm not going to play the whole video. You can watch it on your own. This will, of course, be linked in the description. But the idea is that the 4 stages is the first phase of bringing down a country is demoralization, basically destruction of previous values that held the country together. And you can see that already. We have the Antifa, we have the radical right, we have the radical left, we have the destruction of the family unit. And even if you're a mother, you cannot currently decide if your son or daughter gets the vaccine or not. So we can see the destruction of the family values, as well as if you think about religious values, they have been destructed as well. So first phase is demoralization. The second phase is infiltration of these ideas into economy, foreign relations, defense systems, teaching, and so on. And that's basically happened as well. And the third phase is a crisis. And crisis is going to be very, very fast. He said as fast as 6 weeks, you bring out a crisis. And from that crisis comes the fourth phase, which is called normalization phase. So in normalization phase, you have a violent change of power structure and economy. And from that, this can actually last indefinitely, this normalization phase. So what you want to do in this normalization phase is destabilize the economy and eliminate free market competition. Basically, in our situation, shutting down the small business. And then you want to put a big brother government with a benevolent dictator on top. That's basically his hand gesture here. This is the phase that he was talking about. And then the dictator promises all kinds of goodies and promises of a better future to create false illusions that the situation is under control. That's basically the idea of the normalization phase. And then you have basically captured a country. And that's the idea. So if we take a look at what's going on in the world right now, you can see if we talk about back to before World War II, Nazi Germany and in Italy, there was a mass confiscation of property. And right now, we are seeing mass confiscation of property, but in a different way. So now it is not forced. You are simply given away the right to collect rent. So landlords are becoming homeless because they cannot evict tenants thanks to COVID laws. So this is confiscation of property just done in a different way. Another way to confiscate property is to create an economy or what is this? What is it? Basically, you create a lot of inflation, right? So that you no longer but the wages don't come up with the inflation. So you have massive inflation, which creates asset bubbles. And when the asset bubbles are very, very high, you have high rent. So you cannot pay your bills. So you have to shut down your business. And then you create a crash. And because you have all the money and you have the money printers, then you can basically confiscate everything by just buying everything at a cheap price. That's basically another way of confiscating money. And that's one of the theses that I have, is that in some time, maybe not now, but there will be a massive crash in the economy. And then there will be massive confiscation of property to the nation states. And then this global government basically will be built on top of it. That's basically what I'm expecting in the future. So that's one of the reasons why I don't want to be 100% into crypto right now, because I do expect a massive crash at some point. I don't know how low. I don't know how low Bitcoin will be specifically, but real estate will come crashing down. As you probably know, real estate for odd reasons, have just skyrocketed in many places around the world. But people cannot really afford those prices. So when the interest rates are actually being raised, then people can have to give up their properties as well, and then the lions come and snatch everything. That's basically my idea how this great reset would happen potentially, because that's basically the only idea I have, that they can legally get a lot of companies and a lot of land and other things from individuals in a way that they don't cause too much trouble. That's basically the only idea, is through economic means to cause this crash and then snatch all the stuff at a cheap price. That's basically my idea. But anyway, let's continue. One idea here is, first, they said to create this stakeholder economy and these ESG metrics. So, okay, let's actually Google that. Wealth Forum Stakeholder Capitalism. And now you can see NASDAQ here just 10 hours ago in the news section here said that Stakeholder Capitalism Metrics Initiative will be core to NASDAQ's corporate strategy. So now you can see this happening in real life. Then you have another article. Over 50 companies are adopting these ESG reporting metrics. And here, if we go scroll a little bit down, I saw another article. Let me Google search for that. Here, Financial Express, 100 firms committed to reporting stakeholder capitalism metrics, World Economic Forum. So these major companies are actually implementing this stuff. That's why I believe this is coming. And basically, there's nothing to escape from it. If you just look at why the vaccine mandates have so much support, is because most people are already on welfare and they don't want to give up welfare, right? So they don't fight the government because they are on life support, basically. So all these nations that have a high amount of people on welfare, you cannot overrule that through democratic means anymore, because so many people are dependent on government support that they will just vote for the party that will give them more benefits. So through democratic means, we cannot reverse this anymore, this course of action. And because people aren't protesting against these mandates right now in mass, that's one of the reasons why I do believe this is just going to happen, because people will allow this to happen. Now let's talk about one world, one currency. This is the International Monetary Fund. And this is already an article from 2000, but this is actually just coming to happen. I'll show you soon. So with the International Monetary Fund, they already have something called SDRs. So what is an SDR? It is, goddamn, I forgot the term. Sustainable development. No, it was something else. Sorry, I forgot. But this is basically the reserve currency of different national banks. So this is really a reality already. And if you look at George Gammon's video, he actually talks about this. Is Biden trying to collapse the dollar? And he's talking about this digital currency that should be adopted as the world's leading reserve currency from the World Economic Forum, from this website here. But actually, when I went to this website and you try to go to this website here, the website no longer works. It will simply redirect you to this page. So I have to use something called the web archive to actually pull up this article again. So this article, from dollar to ESDR. So this is now the electronic version of this already functioning SDR. I have to find out what is the definition. Special drawing right now. Okay, that's the definition. Anyway, here they explain why they need this ESDR. And they're basically talking about Trump in many cases here. So Trump is the reason why they want to create these ESDRs. But maybe that's one of the reasons why they took down this article, because they got rid of Trump. So maybe they no longer need these ESDRs. I don't know why they removed this article from online, or maybe they changed their plans anyway. But if you just look at what they at least wanted to implement, is to create an ESDR, which would in sense be a reserve asset, because it would be fully backed by reserve currencies in the IMF determined ratio. Such supply of the ESDRs would be completely dependent on market demand. So they basically want to get rid of the dollar in favor of these ESDRs. So ESDRs would be replacing the dollar maybe in the future. I don't know if this is still the plan or not. Just interesting that they withdrew this article from online, but you can still see it with the web archive if you want to. But anyway, they talk about the destruction of the dollar, why it's still used for the as a national global standard. They want to get rid of it. Okay, so I don't know if you are convinced or not if this great reset will happen or not. We'll see if it will happen or not. But I do believe that it makes at least sense to hedge yourself against a possible crash. And if this crash would happen, then I just want to be ready for it. So I want to have United States dollars regardless if the price of the United States dollars crashes. But I also want to have Bitcoin, because Bitcoin is basically the fuck you for this new digital economy or stakeholder economy or something like that. Because right now, the crypto market and the crypto space is still not regulated, so they cannot really confiscate anything from that economy. So if you want to combat this, the DeFi land, the Economist newspaper, or I don't know what you call this anymore. Is it a newspaper or just a news organization? Anyway, they were talking about DeFi already. So DeFi, decentralized finance, is working online, and you don't need a bank account to access these services. So if you participate in DeFi or support DeFi, I think this is one of the only frontiers right now that still has the idea of private ownership, that the government cannot simply confiscate you like they can confiscate your property, or they can even shut down your business. They can tell you, oh, no, businesses can only allow these kinds of people with these kinds of passports, you know what I'm talking about, to inside your business. But all these mandates and everything like that, they are not favoring the small business. They are only favoring the big business. And that's the reason why big businesses have boomed through 2020, 2021, and even going higher later in 2021 as well. But all the small businesses are basically suffering while big business is booming. So decentralized finance is one way to support this. Another way to support is just support your local business. That's one way. And another way, if you want to basically resist this, I don't know if you do, is to resist these mandated forced injections, basically. I made an article here on Twitter. You can read the whole thing, why I'm not taking the vaccine and why I'm not supporting these mandates that are going on in the world. I don't care if I have to be alone in the room for a little bit while longer, because I'm used to that anyway. I'd rather wait and see what these side effects are. But I laid out all my reasons here if you want to. I'm cool and I support if you want to get the injection. That's perfectly fine. I think it makes sense for many of the risk groups. But for me as a healthy individual, it just doesn't make sense. And I don't want to support the idea of coercing and forcing people to take something which is in an experimental phase. But anyway, you can read my reasons on this thread. And was there something else? Oh yeah, it's just completely illogical to force people into this. And this is basically my major argument against these forced mandations and so on. Because in 2019 already, 34 million Americans lived in poverty. An irony of those who support these forced mandates is that they think that everyone will take it, which just is unrealistic in my opinion. It is completely unrealistic to think that 100% of your people in a country will be okay for these mandations. So the people who support these mandates are willing to throw millions of people into poverty-like situation basically to be excluded from society, which just means more violence, more crime, more suicides, more hunger, more disease, and more deaths, and even worse economy. So if you want to save lives, you don't want people to be in poverty. You want people to have a good lifestyle. So if you are forcing people into these poverty-like situations, you are just creating more problems that way. So you cannot save lives with the mandations. You can save lives with the vaccine, I believe that, but with these mandates, I don't believe these can be a good idea if you factor in all the things about this. So anyway, in conclusion, I think there will be a major crash at some point to basically confiscate property from people and to nationalize these companies or these global companies. That's basically the idea that I see behind this Great Reset. Because if they want to implement this, they need to have more control over people's private property. You can fight this. I don't know if that's a good idea or not. I'm playing basically the both sides. I own Bitcoin. I'm part of the DeFi landscape because that's where I see the future of growth going. And I also have these dollars in case price crashes. And if you want to be really, really nuts, then you can, get if there will be a big uprising or something like that. Maybe you want to have a little bit food in your storage. Also, having some gold and silver is probably a good idea as well, which I also have a little bit as well. So that's basically the idea that I have. Let me know if you believe this or if you have something against this Great Reset idea. And do you think this makes any sense or not? Am I just delusional? Let me know in the comments what you think and share this video if you thought it was useful. Anyway, that's it for this video. Hope you liked it. Consider subscribing and I will see you maybe in the next one.